And it's that's my like intro, by the way. My name is Paul Brumbaugh, and you're on the edge. It is now Friday, December 8th, 2023, and I don't know why I have to hit my hands as I speak, but I do it anyway. I'm sitting here at edgestudiosonline.com because it's Friday. And I'm here with a good friend of mine, Kieran James.
Thank you.
Because I'm so used to calling you by your initials, Kieran James.
My name back. Kieran James was given to me somewhat 100 years ago. Yeah, it's funny because so many people knew me as KJ.
Right.
And nobody ever asked my first name once. Now when I introduce myself, they're like, "Oh, wait, where's KJ?"
And then there's another artist that goes by, you're the artist formerly known as
KJ Smith.
Yeah.
I put a song on pre-COVID just that way people could listen to it. And apparently there's a hardcore gangster rapper named KJ Smith who has a following in Southern California.
Which I totally had you two confused.
Absolutely. It's hilarious because they had the pictures of him and here comes my face.
I still think you should do your headshot just like that next time.
That's all right.
Better switch places with that one. So, man, it's been a while. I mean, I think last time I actually had you on air with us was actually during the inception of Edge Studios Online 2 years ago this month.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so, and you were doing it from your little guy shack.
My man cave, yes.
Your man cave.
During the COVID, I became an angry man with a chainsaw. And I went in my backyard and just redid my entire backyard, and that included constructing a shed that I could practice music because the house was full because everybody was home, and it would give me an outlet where I could go play and practice and then put a camera in there.
And so that's where you actually released one of your first COVID hits.
Oh, that was. Well, actually, I can't show you the picture. It was the only time I grew my hair long in my life.
Yeah, because you actually had it down to like what I remember mine being like in high school. You look like Kevin Bacon 30 years ago or 25 years ago.
I thought I'd look cooler, but it ended up.
You looked fine, dude.
Anyway, I thought it looked cooler. But
did your kids let you know right away it did not look cool?
Yes, they did. Well, my son and I were having a bet to see who could go longer without cutting their hair, and I won the bet. He just came home one day with short hair. He's like worth every penny. So,
how long did his hair get?
It got pretty
down the shoulder.
Yeah, down about right here. So
because you had it below the collar almost. That was kind of cool, man.
Yeah. So.
And then and then you kept it even longer after that. He shaved his head or cut all the excess hair.
Yeah, he likes to keep it short. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing summer months or whatever, it was just easier to deal with.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to? I don't want to say. Well, I guess it is post-pandemic. Can we say post-pandemic now, folks?
Absolutely post-pandemic.
Thank you.
So
I'm afraid because I still see people with masks.
I promised myself I got through the other end of this that I would work and release original music that I've been working on for a while. I was planning on doing it this summer, and so about 3 weeks ago, it finally came to fruition. The album's called Unspeakably Wonderful by Kieran James, and it's got 7 tracks on it, 4 that were recorded in the studio and 3 that were recorded live. And I'm currently working on the second album, which isn't named yet, but that should be coming about 3 or 4 months. So.
Really? How deep are you into the new one coming?
We've got the music pretty well done. The vocals have to be done, so probably in January we'll record the vocals, and then the mixing takes 4 or 6 weeks. So.
And you're doing a lot of this live in studio.
No, this will be 4 more studio tracks, and then we'll figure out if we want to throw some extra just live tracks on there than just me and the guitarist playing around the studio.
Now that's a good segue, or great segue into what I was going to ask you. What's one of your favorite Bay Area's venues here to play at?
Oh,
because there's so many of them, right?
It really, we are spoiled by what we have here, and
Well, even as comedians, we're spoiled too. We find a soapbox no matter where we're at. So even if it's online at the bank.
The kind of the shame about it is that some of the ones near my house, closer to the peninsula, Main and Elm, Cafe Zoe's, both of those have gone out. Pioneer Saloon is still available, but
I think that place will be there as long as there's
Absolutely.
money on Wall Street.
Yeah,
And so the Pioneer will be, but Cafe Zoe, wasn't that the one by the train station in Menlo?
yeah, it's Menlo and Palo Alto, Menlo Alto Avenue. It's
Oh, okay.
the neighborhood pizza guy. It's still open.
Right.
And the neighborhood pizza guy's great. He's a great guy. But Zoe and Kathleen were wonderful, and they really supported musicians on the peninsula. And but they just needed to move on, and so pizza's great.
So are they performing and doing shows there?
They're doing shows there. I'm hoping to get there and perform again. And we'll see. They have a good relationship with those guys, and they should be fun. Angelica's, which was in downtown Road City during the pandemic, switched from a music-centric place to just a restaurant now.
So do they do any performing down in the main room of Angelica's? They used to
They
do
took
like
the
the
stage
jazz
they
quartets.
took the stage away.
Really?
They took the stage away. So
Oh, because they could put at least 4 more tables there.
correct. Yeah,
It's
that's
4 more empty tables right there. I'm sorry. and I'm not saying that to Angelica's. I'm saying it because based on our economy here and everywhere, right? Even though we're post-pandemic now, a lot of the places you just mentioned that were great spots to hit, they've been hit hardest by the pandemic because, again, small businesses here in the Bay Area. It's even harder to maintain a business here, a small business here in the Bay Area, because the cost of overhead. We're literally at the corner of 7th and Market in San Francisco, and now this isn't a segue to another pitch, but literally, I think the real estate we're in, I don't even know what it is, but it's so expensive, and yet half of the buildings in downtown San Francisco are still pretty vacant and boarded up.
the only positive, if you can call that, is that a lot of the spots are continuing to maintain their presence on the parking lots. So they're putting people outside. So there's a number of places that now have an inside-outside situation. with
Oh, the
small
parklet,
cities.
yeah, the parklet thing.
And even here in San Francisco, there have been a couple of places that I've played that have the parking outside is now incorporated into the venue. So
So is the, again, post-pandemic world we're in, is the honeymoon period over? And I know right after the pandemic, people were starving for entertainment, and I could sling some jokes from 19, whatever, but I could sling some jokes and they were like, these are so tasty. These are new, fresh, oven baked out of the oven, fresh baked out of the oven.
I think people are now coming around to a combination of comfortable being around, strangers and people, and wanting to, just experience, interacting with other people, and not be on Zoom, not be stuck inside, just to be out and experience something. So hopefully it's a turnaround. It's just a matter of shaking out the economy and people having to get their footing on what is going to make them successful as a business.
Now, over the last few years, also, you and I have come to this realization we're not necessarily empty nesters, but our kids are not needing the guidance they once did.
Okay.
It's different, right? Oh, you're saying, yeah, sure, okay, Paul. Is that what I'm saying? No, I don't know about that. But I guess what I'm saying is, are you finding your schedule freed up a little bit because your kids are getting
Oh,
older?
sir. Oh, certainly. Certainly. You have the availability to have the ability to not have to be responsible for home for as much as you were before. My guys are going to be actual college graduates, and one of them is going to be working up here in the city, about 5 blocks from here.
Wow.
In September. But it's different, but it's nice to just see people and to be beyond that panic and stress of just a intolerable situation which we went through.
Yeah, it's funny because again, we're starting to see more masks pop up, which is fine, and I like people being cautious, and it's whatever your comfort zone is. So, I forget where I was. I think it was the gas station the other day, and it was here in the city. And literally, people were like, there was 10 people deep, yet I think one or two people had masks on, and they were, oh, it was a 7-Eleven, and they were like literally 2 feet from each other. And they were like, literally, you could feel the person breathing on my neck if they were tall enough. And so I kind of walked in, and I saw somebody kind of lose their cool and say, back up. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna pay at the pump. And so I paid at the pump. I skipped my Slurpee or whatever I was gonna get, which was, and we were talking about
Poor-
diabetes earlier.
poor
Diabetes in a cup.
So
Sorry.
7-Eleven is missing out on the.
I know. Polly's big gulp. Yeah, I'm a kid of a product of the '60s, child of the '70s, so I definitely grew up with my Slurpees. So yeah, I mean, I'm smart. I'm not overly paranoid, but also your day job, you deal with health,
Yes.
the health industry, I guess you should say.
Clinical research at Stanford. The problem was that with COVID, it did knock our trials out. So I'm still furloughed from Stanford University.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
More time to work on my second career as a.
Yeah, because you couldn't take your work home with you, literally. You
No.
couldn't.
Well,
That would be a little creepy or
that,
weird.
that was just the situation was unfortunately most of the time our trials encompass a set time period where you try to get most kids together and into some
Oh.
Airbnb and stuff like that, and it just was not
Not conducive to our
wasn't.
state of the nation.
So they're starting to get going again, and if Stanford ever needed me, they can call on me. But so far that call hasn't come, and it's fine by me.
And so even that's probably the last ones. I don't want to say to fall in line, but that's the last ones maybe to come along in this post-pandemic world.
Well,
It's the last person to really to stick their to dip their toe in the end of the pool.
but it is, I think, more positive. I think that people are now traveling. Certainly, I've traveled.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly, you can, as I've always admired comedians because they have a very difficult craft. They have to find strangers, particularly diverse strangers that have never heard them before, and you need that initial reaction to be able to judge your material on how it would be. And it's unlike music in the fact that you've heard a song, you've heard it 100 different times, and if you really like the song, you'll keep listening to it. But with a joke, the impact is really the first time.
And usually, even with music, and we're so subjective, or people are or comedy is so subjective depending on who you are. I think music, if you have talent, at least people can listen to it as background, or it's not so intrusive.
Yes. You have to pay attention to comedy. You have to be focused in on it. You have to be paying attention to get the punchline, and instead of being the background and having a conversation, you can't have a conversation during a stand-up act. In fact, you're begging to be picked upon.
You have to just be quiet, please be quiet. No hecklers, even just a glass clinking or whatever. It's kind of like that. But with music, you can kind of have it going on in the background, have a nice kind of lull conversation, and it doesn't interrupt the performer.
Yeah.
It adds ambiance. Usually, you're right. All eyes are on us. All ears are on us. And then the other thing is, I think musicians get judged, but not like comedians. So you're listening with every word, and then like most audience members will only give you a joke or two, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm done. It's time to go get a drink at the bar. It's time to go outside and smoke a cigarette. It's time to leave.
You're more patient with musicians. That's for sure. A bad song, you go, okay, maybe the next one's good, but stand-up is a very, very difficult craft to master, and it's something that as I said, you have to seek out strangers and people who've never heard. You can't practice it over and over again. When I sing to my dogs, I can sing over and over again. I have a captive audience, and then you can play it back. But you can tell me if you try recording your routine, it's not going to affect you. You're the joke writer, and you need to have that group of strangers or diverse individuals to be able to get the response back. and judge that. And with music, if you like it as a musician, sometimes that's good enough. And I don't, I don't have to seek out strangers if I'm happy with what it sounds like. That's me. But with stand up, that's not going to be successful. You may think it's really funny, but when
Well, it is
everybody-
kind of funny because we do seek out the approval of unknown strangers.
Yes.
And I've made that kind of a mantra part of my act. And so, but it's also the thing of like, previous to the show, we were in studio and we were loading up one of your tracks and we listened to it twice. I can listen to your song twice in a row.
Mhm.
I don't know if I can listen to the same
Yeah.
5 minute set back to back without going, I just heard this, turn it off.
Actually, we were talking about a friend of yours. One of the first comic show I ever saw in Las Vegas at the Dunes Casino
Oh, really?
in
Okay.
1990 was a gentleman you're familiar with,
Okay.
George Carlin,
Oh, there you go.
and he had the famous routine in the 80s where he's describing the difference between baseball and football.
Yes. One's a pastoral.
One's a
sport.
pastoral, oh, we're going home, and then the other one will have a 2-minute warning, and we'll have even if you
Yeah,
don't-
it's on a gridiron.
Yes, and so he had the whole routine, and I'm watching it, and he's incredibly funny, but he started that whole routine that I'd heard and seen on HBO many times.
Right.
And it just, you're practically finishing his sentences. So, that type of talent, even if you are a grandmaster and are incredibly funny, it doesn't have the same impact, and it's difficult, and it's really hard because, as you can say, it's hard to get material, and once you use that material once, especially in that large of an audience, you have to write new stuff.
And that's the other thing. So, like, if you're a musician, people know if you can carry a tune, if you can play a guitar, or if you're like one of those auditions that you cringe worthy on one of those reality shows where you're like, oh, I love watching train wrecks. Check this out. And so the problem is with comedian is we can't all sing every time.
No.
Even the same set that just killed and it was singing at the last bar is falling upon deaf ears and deaf crickets in the back of the room.
Yeah, because if you have the wrong audience,
Or if you're not feeling it,
Yeah.
or you're not no conviction, like, oh, tonight's not my night.
or the timing is just a bit off, or something happens out of your control, somebody says something to get under your skin. I've seen many successful stand-up acts, and I've seen many unsuccessful, and it's really timing, the audience, and it's such a fickle craft. And I admire stand-up people because they have such a difficult job. And when you're good, I mean, you go back to the court jester. You
Right.
got free food. You got to live in the castle.
Yeah.
And the only thing you had was your mind, and that was the only tool that you had, and you had to be sharp enough to do that. And when you see people killing it, think about it. You stand up there with the mic, and that's it. And it's amazing when it goes well, but when it train wrecks.
Right, and it's not to say that there's not people that don't have talent on both sides of the fence. It's not to say that even if you are a good performer, musician, comedian, or whatever, that you can't have a bad night or a bad set, because that happens to everybody.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, if you can't carry a tune and your songwriting is atrocious, and which, I'd never know, but we used to do a little variety show at a place that we were just sitting, having a moment of silence. No, I'm bringing up another point. Don't worry. But we used to do one at a place we just kind of had a moment of silence for before the show. You know which playlist I'm talking about. So we used to do a music comedy variety show there, and it was like me, you, and Chris Beauchamp.
Yep.
Right? And so I remember there was one, I play harmonica. When I say play harmonica, I mean I put it to my lips and I make noise, okay? So I'm self-taught and I suck. Excuse the language, but I'm horrible. But I kind of know it. And
teacher.
But then there was another person that had been playing for years, always wore a hat.
Yeah.
And every time that person would sign up, because we never told anybody you can't perform. The only time we would ever do something like that, which I don't think at that venue we ever had to, is if they like especially if they were a comedian, if they were racist or did some stuff that was just wrong.
Yeah.
But musicians, I mean, you could not carry a tune, and I sang on that stage. I think that says it all.
You were
right
great.
there.
The videos are still out there.
Yes.
Look it up.
Oh my gosh, it is horrible.
Version of the Beatles song.
Oh,
My friend.
The worst version of the Beatles song I did was the last time you were on the podcast when I was over at the other radio station, and we did. It was always with a little help from your friends, right? And so, like, at least I could kind of carry that tune once in a while. But the last time I remember going back and listening to that, I was like, oh man, it sounded like a cat stuck on a truck manifold when it started or something.
We gave you a Ringo song.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, let Ringo sing this one, all right? So, but we make fun of that now. He's one that has the longevity. So,
What
okay,
happened 43 years ago today?
but yeah, exactly. So, but then there used to be somebody that we used to play harmonica, and it'd be like, oh no. And so there's musicians even like that go to open mics where people go, oh, this is the time to go get the
We
drink.
all start from somewhere, and that's the key.
I'm a great reference point.
And we all have to start, and the important thing is to be respectful, be nurturing, give them honest, and say, just pick out if they play 3 songs, say, I think this one was the best.
Yeah,
It's
this
the
is your
good
wheelhouse. This is your one.
That one was the best, and maybe work on that one and continue to practice that one because I've played many times where I felt I'm following somebody else going, oh God, I wish I could do that, and we all are on a journey, and we all need some positive reinforcement at some point. And
You guys were always really supportive to me. Like I said, I shouldn't sing outside of my own car by myself or outside the shower where nobody can hear me. But I love it. I think a lot of people love to sing it, and it definitely makes me feel better. I don't know if it makes others, but it makes me feel better. So you guys were always really good to me. Chris, what was Chris's friends? Mike? Was it the other guy?
Yeah.
We did that like the 3, like that AC/DC cover band. Yeah. And then,
Chris,
who else? Scott Bell was always really, he would take me outside and go, good, nobody should hear us from here. No, I mean, he would take us outside and he would actually work with me and he would be giving me props like, you sound great, you're doing well.
Scott's a great guy. And actually, ironically, the first time I did a song competition,
By the
was
way,
very nervous.
Hi, Bell Brothers.
Yep. And I tell a story on stage with Scott all the time. So I was really nervous. I wrote what was considered a song, and I was very nervous because I was playing, and there were about a dozen musicians in the competition, and Scott was there, and I went up and to bring moral support, I brought my kids, family. I finish up, and I was nervous, and I sat back down. I said, "How do you guys think I did?" And my son, very supportive, said, "Dad, you were the best." And my daughter looked over and said, "Nah, his was better," and pointed at Scott.
Pointed at Scott.
And whenever I see Scott, I always tell him, my daughter,
You got my daughter, yeah. But that's kind of cool because even I've heard the Bell Brothers band a couple times on YouTube, but I've never seen them live. And I was going to see them live. I think it was The Office in San Carlos like a year or two ago or something like that. And I was like, oh, I really want to see them live because I've seen Scott live, but I've never seen him and his brother live and their band. And I'm like, this band kicks butt.
Yes, they do.
And so it's great to be, like I said, so
And if
here
you're out
here's
there,
somebody.
Look up "Fair Warning." It's a great song by the Bell Brothers. And Scott is an incredible singer, and he's out there.
Yeah, again.
Chris is out in Central Valley. He and Monica, they're out by Modesto. He in Misfit.
No,
Williams.
are they? I thought they were more towards Sacramento.
Maybe up by Elk Grove now. So
Yeah, I want to say it's Sacramento area, but yeah.
anything
Chris
east of
Bean and
Livermore to
Monica.
me, everything east of Livermore is kind of the same to me.
And they finally got married. Congrats.
Yes.
That was, I think, mid-pandemic, and I saw them at a thing over here at City Hall. It has to be within the last 2 years because when I was doing the studio, So I saw them at something where I think their day job has to revolve around solar.
Yes.
So they were over here doing like one of the solar, what do you want to call it, like events. So, but okay, so now let's segue into some of your music. Tell us about this one. This is one of the ones off your current album, not the new one coming out, but the current one, and this is one of your 4 studio tracks?
Correct. This one's called Unspeakably Wonderful. It's the title track. It's there's a story behind it. Before 1923, type 1 diabetes was a death sentence. There was never in human history a treatment for it. So, and 95% of the people who were diagnosed with it were under the age of 18. So it affected the vast majority of children. Before 1923, they had if you were diagnosed with it, you had about 6 weeks to live, and it's going to be painful. You're going to starve to death. A group of 3 individuals, 2 doctors and a chemist, Frederick Banting, James Gallup, Charles Best, started and had progress in a treatment, a drug that they were working on. And what they were doing was creating a rudimentary form of the hormone insulin. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease in which your autoimmune system strips your ability to produce insulin. Insulin is the hormone that allows your carbohydrates and sugars to be converted to energy. Without it, it's impossible to live. So after having some success, they decided to experiment on the 50 children that were in their diabetes ward, and they started injecting the kids. When they got about halfway through, they heard screams from the other side because some of the kids were waking up. They were successful. One of the kids that was in there was a 14-year-old named Elizabeth Hughes. Elizabeth Hughes had been told, like all the other people who've ever been diagnosed, that they were not going to survive, and they had a follow-up questionnaire. So she was sitting about 2 or 3 days later in her hospital bed with her family surrounding her and eating for the first time since her diagnosis. And they asked her, what did the shot feel like? And the answer she gave was, it felt unspeakably wonderful. So 8.5 million people still rely on insulin to survive this day, and one of those happens to be my daughter. So.
There we go. So this is a very inspiring song for you and some others out there. Here we go.
Something to say to those I can't repay for all that you've done for me. You will never know my face or what took place when my life was crashing. I know that on that day we could finally say we now have it to love. After the Nobel Prize for saving all their lives, thanks to painting best in color. And though I know they will never see millions of voices, come say it with me. You're the reason we're here after all. Unspeakably wonderful. Unspeakably wonderful. 'Cause it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's not right. All right, hey, awesome, great job, man.
Thank you very
Beautiful.
much. Thank you.
So that's with the full arrangement. Who did you write all parts of that, or did you have your
I
friends
worked
help?
with wonderful producers, Georgiana Ireland and Ed and Claire. And also, there were musicians on there. Ryan Salazar played bass. Jim Bagoy was the drummer, and Isaac Butler Brown was the guitarist. So,
Good job. I'm glad you pulled all those names because otherwise it's gonna be one of those acceptance speeches.
I
that
was
you're
thinking
gonna get
the
somebody.
mandolin player is Steve Gibson, but he wasn't on that track. So,
I was gonna say I didn't hear him.
no, it's a different one. The next time you have me, we'll do that song.
What's the name of that song?
The words you never hear.
Okay.
That song was one of my friends that I played with quite often. There were so many tough stories coming out of the pandemic, and in this particular case, his parent was hard of hearing, and the home that they were at, they had an outbreak, and this is before the vaccine, so they arranged to have a tablet like this in order for the children to say goodbye to their parent, and the parent was hard of hearing and wore hearing aids, but because there were so many people working and they were overworked and they were replacing them as they got sick, they didn't realize that he needed hearing aids. And so they all had 15 minutes or 10 minutes to say goodbye to their dad. And my friend was the last one, and they recognized and saw on the nightstand that the hearing aids were still on the nightstand. So he wasn't responding because he couldn't hear them. And that was passed later on that night. So it was called The Words You Never Hear. And it was just discussing how crazy and how difficult that time was, about about how it is so against human nature, especially for older people who don't have much time left, to try to inhibit human interaction. And it was I still remember when we finally got the vaccine. I still remember when the vaccine was announced and that there was going to be a light at the end of the tunnel in the situation. And because otherwise, if we didn't have it, you have the choice of either mentally disturbing yourself and forcing isolation, or being physically dangerous to other people who have certain preconditions.
Right. And so even now, that's why when we can hold these people close and we have the opportunity.
Yeah. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I'm going to see you in 72 hours.
Exactly. So there you go. Oh, and you're going back. That's right. You're going back east.
I am heading the other way, foolishly leaving California.
Yeah.
For all the people who make fun of it, it's still the best state in the world.
There you go. But so you're going because you grew up in New York.
Do we not mention that in public? Yes. I loved it so much that I turned 21 and I visited California the first time in my life. I said, like this every day? And they said, yeah, it was San Diego. And I said, I'm going to move out here. And so I got a job, and I've been in California for 33 years.
But then you have at least one sibling, a brother out there.
My brother still lives, yes, very close to New York. In fact, we're going to go see the New York Rangers, our favorite sports team, on Sunday evening. Okay, LA Kings.
Cool. And then your parents are where it's mandatory for
Mandatory to go
anybody.
to Florida. Yeah, they're on the West Coast or in Sarasota. So.
Oh, that's nice. So yeah, warm weather everywhere they go.
Yeah. Being in California, I think that one thing that happens is your blood thins, that you expect it to get cool every night. and it's not supposed to be 75 and humid at midnight. And
Right.
So, often when I travel East Coast or whichever.
So are you gonna be there for the whole holiday? Because we got a couple weeks until.
No, I come back Friday. California demands I come back. So my parole officer will.
The
Get me
little
bracelet.
ankle bracelet goes off
Will
about
say,
30,000 feet.
He must be returned. He must be returned.
So I know the answer to this, and I know everybody else is
I
going
wish
to know
I knew
the
the
answer
money.
of it. But where do you seem to get your inspiration when I hear it's all seems like it's observation or it seems situational. Either it's happened to you or you see it happening.
It's ironic to bring this up because the other song that on the studio is one called Serenity.
Okay.
And that is the one song that was unspeakably wonderful. It's about obviously insulin and the personal impact it's had on my life.
Right.
Words You Never Hear is the impact of a friend.
Right.
And I have a song Family, which is actually about my shelter dog.
Okay.
The guys on the cover. Of the
Which
album.
we saw, right?
But
So-
Serenity is the one that I had a friend who I was walking with this morning, and she listened to it, and she had a much. The nice part about music is sometimes you can write something, and somebody will totally interpret it differently.
Totally different,
than
yeah.
what you had meant. But Serenity is actually about a very famous person who created the world's most valuable company. His name is Steve Jobs. I was yelled at by the current CEO of Apple, Tim Cook,
Cook, yeah.
in the late 90s when I was working in that industry, and they sent me as a sacrificial lamb. But long story short, Steve Jobs, the interesting part of the story is that he was at 18, he grew up, the Jobs family, very loving family in Los Altos, and at 18 they told him he was adopted. And so he sought out his adoptive parents. They found his birth mother and had a relationship with her for the rest of his life. But when she told him about his biological father, he decided to cut him out and did not want any. And at this point, he was a very, very private guy. So she knew that that was his son, but he never knew that she never told him. So he was completely unaware that he was the biological father of Steve Jobs. So,
Gotcha.
But at the same time, what's interesting, and people don't realize, Steve Jobs was a very complicated figure. He was a brilliant innovator, but his personal life, he impregnated his girlfriend just as Apple was starting to get going, and he denied paternity for 5 years. And before DNA technology, and the fact that he had much better lawyers than she could afford, his daughter lived on welfare and public assistance until 5 years old. Her name was Lisa.
I figured it was iPod.
No, it was Lisa, which was the biggest bomb of the computers in the 80s.
Oh, that's right. There was that.
Yeah,
that was
he
the
finally
Lisa.
said, okay, I owe
That's
this to those two. So he had the complex figure of having this anger at his father for this perceived slight. Yet, what he did is arguably, worse. He was aware that this was his child and allowed, while he was very wealthy, for her to live in poverty. But the story is that when he got sick, Steve Jobs, and they were able to track down the biological father. Some reporter did, and went running up to him and said, he's going to die soon. Don't you want to say something to your son? And he says he would only have said, we have nothing to share. I want to respect his wishes. And the reporter said, but that means you'll never have met your son. And he stopped and he looked and he said, that's not exactly true. It turns out the biological father, during his adult life, worked in the restaurant industry in Northern California. And
So he served him at some point.
he distinctly remembers hosting the Apple Executive Committee and one Steve Jobs. And he distinctly remembers shaking Steve Jobs' hands after a meal. So the third verse in the song Serenity is, oh, the bitter irony that fate would cause us to meet. If you had only known the son that you had, the table you had to clean sat the son of your own. So it was in essence saying, and so that song, because when I wrote it and I sung it, I had to call my parents and say, this is nothing to you guys. My parents are the most wonderful people in the world. They've been great. And but that's
Here's a disclaimer. Comes with every
yes,
45.
yes. But that is a song that it was an interesting story, and I don't know why the word serenity. I mean, the first line of the song is "God grant serenity," which people who know, it's the AA creed, and it talks about death and choices and this type of stuff. But besides that, most of them are about personal experiences, about people they try, and that was the amazing to me. I don't know about you, but during the pandemic was the desert, the least creative period of my life. I just didn't have. You think you were at home, you could read all these books, you could do all this type of stuff, but I found it you were just locked at home, and that you weren't doing anything, and that it was, a terrible time to be creative. And you think you might be creative, but I've talked to other musicians, and I don't know what I found was, as soon as we got out, as I said, the song Words You Never Hear came from the first night that I was able to go into a public place and talk to another person. And it's the interaction of human beings with each other that I found. I had never been segregated, I'd never been in jail, and I can't think of any other situation in which you are purposely and willfully trying to avoid interaction with other human beings.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic in a lot of ways was kind of like a mass, almost kind of like a mass. I want to say like when they do mass hypnosis, when they take out an entire audience when somebody's, but it was kind of like it was a mass mental health event, I guess.
Absolutely.
So even if you didn't have mental health before, you experienced at least some of the symptoms.
Only time in my life I ever had insomnia. It is a scary, blanking thing.
No, it's okay. Hey, we're on your Facebook, so.
But it was the only time I had insomnia where you wake up at 2 in the morning and be like, why am I sleeping? Why am I not be able to go back to sleep?
Right.
It's something we went through. It's something that's done, and it was a terrible experience and event. But it taught some lessons the hard lessons that you find out. As I said, the interactions of people. When you roll into Reno, Nevada, you get the wrong name of a bar, and you're at a bar that serves only women, and you're the only guy there, and you still want to sing to them, and so you have a great story because you changed
Well,
the
you've
lyrics.
been to the no-fly zone.
Well, they refused to serve me beer. They used to. It was really tough. They used to smoke back then, even in Nevada. I mean, and so they had sawdust on the floor, and the first song just went over terribly. And I tried to order a beer. They refused to serve me, and I sung Maggie May by Rod Stewart, but I turned the protagonist instead of an older woman seducing an older. I mean, a older woman seducing a younger woman, and the crowd really liked it. And I put some words in there I usually don't use, and so they let me play for an hour and a half, and I had a wonderful time. And the interesting part about that bar, it doesn't exist anymore, because I put in the name of the bar, and unbeknownst to me, that is something called anime porn term was the name of the bar.
Oh,
So
okay.
all of a sudden, my Google search, these little creatures are doing things on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
I'm driving, and I'm like,
You're already swipe.
Please, I had to put blank blank bar, and then it took me to there.
That's funny, because now I almost want to know what that term is, but you can tell me after the show. But that's funny. But going back, so yeah, you're right. Us creative types, it doesn't matter how you're creative. We need some sunlight, some nourishment, some interaction. I get asked by young comedians all the time, I'm having writer's block. What do I do? You're in San Francisco, buddy.
Yeah.
Walk outside, stand on a street corner, and bring your pad of paper with you. Go on a Muni bus.
But yeah, it's the interaction of human to human.
Right.
And it is the essence of the unknown of walking in and get. I don't know about you. I still get that excitement if I'm going to play a place and I open the door and I'm hoping to see strange faces. I'm hoping to to get that reaction off people, to see what could happen. Because as I say, you don't know, and that's the fun of this. That's what brings it is that, you know, you have good nights, you have bad nights, but you take something away from that with you, and you just don't get to being surrounded by the same people.
Exactly. Now, we did play one of you, I don't want to say canned, but out of the studio tunes, but you got your guitar over there.
And I do.
And it would be just a shame to have you bring it all the way just to have you walk through me,
And you
through
know
my
that.
echoey halls and doing that thing. Which I'm going to do a couple things here because I do that. That's what we do.
That's why I get the big money.
Yeah, that's why I get the big money. By the way, guys, we are looking for contributions.
Contributions.
If you can say it, you can do it. We're looking for contributions. So be looking for a fundraiser from the studio because we need to keep the doors open, folks. So you can hear and see more artists like Kieran and James here. I almost did it again.
Kieran James.
Kieran James. And I want to put an N in the middle there. I don't know why. Kieran James. All right. So what do you got for us?
What do I have? This is I don't know. Did you ever have your first joke which you thought was really good? Yeah.
Yeah, and those changed. But yeah, I definitely had my first baby or two, yes.
And so Scott Bell, after he crushed me in that competition, you know, I played around with some songs and stuff like that, but never really felt like I had a song.
Right.
Like something that I'd be proud to share or whatever. And I was sitting in the hallway, and that came to me, and I'm like, oh, I like that. All right, let me see. And it ended up, when I find writing music, the first word or the first note are the hardest ones, because that you don't know. So this song was conceived in the car. I was driving with my son coming home from a Little League game, and we were talking about the Giants and Madison Bumgarner, about Buster Posey, and it was just one of those magical moments that I wanted to capture and keep forever.
Okay.
And it's a song called "I'd Rather Be." My son Brendan is down in Cal Poly, San Francisco. I have a son who happens to be 13. You grow up, what do you wanna be? He looked me in the eye, Dad, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be Buster Posey. Remember my dad asking me same thing when I was 13. I remember what I said. If I was someone instead, I'd have to be Wayne Gretzky. But then I realized that I would be denied of the memories in my towns with my children and my wife, then that would be a crime to me. So my son said, hey, what about me? Would I choose Wayne or Buster Posey? I looked him in the eye, and he was quite surprised when I simply said, I'd rather be me, with apologies to Wayne Gretzky than Buster Posey. I'd rather be me, I'd rather be me, I'd rather be I'd rather be.
All right. There we go.
Thank you.
Kieran James. We got viewers on all platforms.
Oh, we got a platform.
Yes, thank you, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Africa. Africa TV.
What? How do you spell that?
Okay, so here it is. It's Africa. So it's
Yes.
Afreca.
Ah, cool.
And so all I know is we always get viewers, by the way, thanks from across the pond, wherever you are, but you're in Asia somewhere. And so usually it's nice people. So it will be a guy, an Asian guy playing his clarinet.
Okay.
It will be an Asian girl shopping.
Okay.
It will be a teenager playing some video game. It's kind of like Twitch. It's a little bit of everything, but they definitely been checking us out.
You're
so.
much younger than I am, so you know of these things. So,
Yeah, and it's because we want to go out to as many platforms as possible. We want to spread the love. So
My
to speak.
children have say I cannot get a TikTok account. So
And you've got 2 thumbs ups on your Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
All right, and then you
Thank
had a
you,
couple
everyone.
watchers there.
Excellent.
If you guys have any questions for, there you go.
Kieran James.
Kieran James. I keep wanting to do your initials, dude. So, all right. So you got this new album coming out. Do you have a release date for it yet?
Not yet. In fact, that song's going to be on it,
Okay.
and it's going to sound a lot different.
Because I remember you doing that many years ago for me.
Yeah, that was my first real song where I actually had words, lyrics, melody played the same way, and where one of the coolest things I still remember. My buddy Rafi, who's played up and down the San Francisco Bay Area, and I remember playing that particular song and several times in front of him, and I remember him singing along with me at the end and thinking, no matter what else I've ever done, that somebody was singing my song, and that's cool. And
Right.
But it's gonna sound.
Yeah, we don't get that as comedians.
well,
Actually,
I
people
mean-
will tell a joke.
Yeah, I would think that having that the rush of the whole crowd laughing at you and playing with the crowd would be really something great.
But you do that in your performances too. Like you were just saying earlier that you changed words for whatever song. During
Yeah. Well, you have
performances.
you have to be somewhat on your feet to read the room, as they say. But,
Right.
But when a comedian gets going and the whole place and it's contagious, and there's definitely momentum in comedy. And if you're building up and you go back and you bring an old joke out just to, when you have that crowd and when people are laughing, I've always been envious because it's like, wow, that must be cool.
It is a different kind of energy. I think the difference for me is that when I perform comedy, I literally will feel a push me, pull me kind of connection
Yeah.
to where when I've performed music, again, lightly using that term, perform music, it's more of kumbaya, it's more of a synergy that's going around. It's a good feeling, but it's not like a give and take. It's more of a sit back, bask, and enjoy.
I won't pick on one particular stand-up comedian, but there was a place I played one time, and this gentleman was inebriated and was not particularly good at his craft.
I thought you weren't gonna make fun of me.
No, this is definitely not Mr. Brumbaugh. But it became a contest. He was being as obnoxious as possible during my performance, and where he was trying to speak as loudly as possible. And one advantage you do have as a musician is you can play and sing louder. What song? It was With or Without You. I did whatever the next song was. I was like, I'm just gonna go, oh, and scream out. I kept screaming that part out because he couldn't talk over it, and he finally kind of got the message. But very rarely, I would say the heckler ratio is incredibly higher in
The comedy world?
In the comedy world, and so most musicians don't have to have a set of protective barbs to make sure you don't lose the audience.
Well, and here's the other thing is, folks, just to let you know, I don't know if it's this generation or just the days we're in, but it is not a team sport. It's an individual sport. We don't need your help.
Yeah.
We've performed. If we elicit a question, ask you something, try to keep it down to a word or two. Like, what do you do for a living? I'm a plumber. Cool. Well, on Mondays,
Yeah.
we don't want to hear it. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest thing is that they feel like they have to, like they're helping you.
And public service warning, if the comedy club wants you to sit closer to the stage, don't do it. It's not a compliment.
Yeah, no, and that's funny because that's always been a thing where people are afraid to go into little bar shows and they're like, oh, well, I'm definitely not going to sit up front
Yeah.
because they're going to pick on me. And most little shows, we won't pick on you.
No. But
We
Hollywood-
want you there and we want you closer to the stage.
My uncle and I, my first trip to California, I was 21 years old. I looked younger than I did. And I remember, I still remember, Rich Scheidner is the guy's name.
Oh, I love Rich Scheidner. He's a friend of mine.
Mountain Man or Canyon Man was one of his routines.
Okay.
He's Canyon Man. He was talking about huge four-wheel drive vehicles in Southern California where it never rains. Anyway, great show. And very excited to see him. And they, of course, put me and my uncle right up to the stage. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And my uncle, at that point, needed to drink milk for his medication. So he's drinking a glass of milk at a comedy club. And I'm next to the 21-year-old. And I remember him just riffing. He called me the human Ken doll. And sitting next to Captain Kangaroo. And I just remember being like, this was really dumb to sit right here. And so, public service announcement, be out of the light, be
Yeah.
halfway through so that, and especially if you're, on a first date or you're going to have,
Yeah, so they look for first dates like nowadays they're looking for people on Tinder dates or something, or they look for odd couples, or
What's
they
Tinder?
look for what's Tinder? Good man. Yeah, I know. But believe me, the last time I was in a dating
Is that
thing.
something like
it was-
Grindr?
Yeah, it's kind of like the grinder. Yeah. No, but last time I actually was in the dating, it's like I had to turn in a VHS videotape, come back like a week or two later, and here's your matches.
I've been happily together with somebody since the Bush administration, the first one.
There you go, the first Bush.
Yes, so it's been.
Congratulations to the missus.
Thank you. Next year will be 30 años.
Trenta, 20.
No,
No, Trenta. Wait, Trenta.
30.
30.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So I've been together with my lady for 22 plus years, but we've been married for 2.
Hey, they
So,
count.
yeah,
20 years ago, bro.
Sorry.
Hey, Christine. how you
I
doing?
know you just had to make sure that I was gonna. Yeah,
I know Christine's not here last time.
Yeah.
Our friends Kitten.
Oh yeah, Kitten, Brandon, and Mistress Christine, and
Oh,
yeah, the entire Edge crew.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. We did a reunion show back in April with Kitten and Brian King and stuff, so
Yes.
that was interesting. Matter of fact, I think you watched that.
I did participate. I stood far back. I didn't want to sit right near the front because I've been a victim of Paul's.
That's right. You never know.
Influence there.
Oh my gosh! So no, that's one thing I will never pick on people. I want you to come forward as a producer and a host. I want you to move forward. I want you to get out of the darkness. We want to see you and hear you.
In the darkness.
And most of the people I book, if it's one of my show folks, I usually will not book an insult comedian, or I won't do a roast battle.
Yeah.
If I do an insult comedian, here's my rule of thumb: if you're an insult comic, you better hit everybody in the room
Yeah.
and double down on yourself, because then you're like, oh, okay, he's
You
with
know
us.
this? I haven't seen in a while. It's Mickey Joseph.
Oh, I know. So he's in Vegas.
Yeah, I know he's in Vegas. I still have my Oofa Oofa shirt.
Oh yeah, I still have my Woofa Woofa shirt too. Yeah, I actually saw that the other day. I'm like, oh, leave that folded up right there. And so yeah, Mickey Joseph, he's been out there. A lot of us are migrating and doing whatever we can and going wherever we can. They say in San Francisco, you go to San Francisco to work out, but if you want work, you go to New York or LA.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you'll need to make that transition at some point?
I don't know. I'm excited for this year. I really am. I think a lot of people. The music industry is very interesting, as I'm finding out, is I'm incredibly newbie. I'm the newest of newbies and the rawest of rookies. And that it's interesting that, you have the access now. I will shamelessly plug Kieran James, Unspeakably Wonderful, is that it's kind of cool that somebody in Tokyo played my record.
Right.
And so you have opportunities that were impossible 30, 40 years ago because that would be physically impossible. I would like to start playing out more. I start doing shows, doing interactive interviews like this, and I'm excited for the next 4 songs and have a library to work with. But I don't want. The ironic part is who becomes a musician that doesn't want to be famous. I prefer to play in front of people and get that reaction from there, but I don't want to be Taylor Swift. But again, it was.
You just want to marry, what's his name?
Okay, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, that guy.
There was actually, it was fascinating that I saw a picture of the Beatles and they were walking through a crowd in Spain, and it was 1963, and it was the last time they could.
Oh, wow.
And you think about that from that moment on in their lives, when they're 20 years old to Paul McCartney's 82 or whatever, 81, that they've never been able to, Michael Jackson famously wanted to shop at a supermarket, so they closed the supermarket down and let him shop and brought in people.
Well, they used to do
And
that
then-
even at, what was it, FAO Schwartz, they
Yeah.
would let him in.
And so.
And that's like stopping Times Square from running just to
Oh.
let Michael Jackson.
Yeah, but I would like to, see where this goes. And the exciting part is some of the songs have messages, some of the songs have there, and frankly, the smartest piece of advice I was ever given was do what sounds good to you. Don't
Right.
try to please somebody else. Don't try to, try to please somebody else and say, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. The songs I've written, not they be good, bad, or if they ever beat Scott Bell, are I'm proud of them. They're out there, and
They're a real representation of you.
they're experiences. They're what I've had, and if I get run over by a cement truck, eventually you can go back and listen to
This is a legacy you're
Yes.
passing on, other than your children.
legacy, yeah. So, but
So
it's great catching up with you.
it is. And so now tell me where we catch up with everything, Kieran James, and then
KJSongs.com is the website, but if you just Google Kieran James, and Paul had it up before, the album cover.
oh, and
You'll
I can
see-
put that, but
there you go. You see those 2 dirty dogs up there? It's Dexter and Domino, my co-writers. If you Google it, the album's called Unspeakably Wonderful. And
matter of fact, we're gonna put the logo up, and we'll probably play out that song or part of it so you guys can see it.
and KJSongs.com is my website. And I'm hoping to, in the Bay Area, start performing in some local areas. I'm also excited to finish up the next 4 songs, and hopefully, if I don't annoy Paul too much, he'll have me back here.
Oh, I'd love to have you back again, especially if we can play more music and do more music
Yeah.
too.
So-
Okay, so again, and plus we'll have everything down below, guys, right below,
Right over here?
right down here, right here somewhere. There's going to be some stuff where you can get links to his music, and we'll make sure to share that. We're currently on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, on Kieran's Facebook, and then also Ed Studios. Africa. Yeah.
Learn something new
Africa.
today.
Yeah, there you go. So I want to thank you guys for coming along. Thank you for coming along.
Thank
man.
you so much for having me, Paul. It's been fun catching up, and I want to let's not make it this long next time.
Yeah, let's not make it this long. And then grab that guitar. Let's play us out in this thing. All right. Matter of fact, I'll show that after we go out of the exit. I'll play part of your song so they can see your logo again too.
Well, let me play.
All right, go for it.
Oh, I got one more.
There you go.
So, gentlemen, if you ever become a musician or a comedian, well, it'll be different rules for a comedian.
Yeah, might be.
You have to have a song for a person you love. And this one's called Take the Ride With Me, because back in the Bush administration, the first one, I went on a 50-mile bike ride with my wife at that time. And I had no idea that was in store for me. I just thought it was going to be a regular bike ride. So,
There you
this is called Take the Ride With Me. And again, this one's going to be on the new one, but you can hear the live version of this one on the current album. Wish that I could turn back time when we met in our youth If I could show you the things that we would see, what would become of us and what we would be? Mr. Museum. If I could show you, I wonder, would you like mountains we'd climb and the trails that we would bike? If I could show you the trees that we would ski, rivers we'd raft while laughing on the beach. Everybody wants to see, won't you please come and take the ride with me? Everybody wants to see, won't you please come and take the ride with me? But if we use past as a gun, future's gonna be a hell of a ride. While some in life slow down at this stage, like fine wine getting better with age. Everybody wants to see, won't you please come and take the ride with me? Everybody wants to see, won't you please come and take the ride with me? I will love you till the end of time. Always love you till the end of time. Everybody wants to see, won't you please come and take a ride with me? Everybody wants to see, won't you please come take that ride with me?
Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Paul.
And you guys keep standing up. Do that thing that you do, whatever brings you passion in your life. I want to thank you very much. Keep tuning in to everything that Ed Studios Online does. And we'll see you next time here on The Edge, guys.
Thanks, Paul. Thank
Thank
everybody.
you.
I have something to say to those I can't